And Urquhart,
Yes.
visit to King Island. I know you're a regular, but December, is that fairly new?
Well, we're not sitting this week, so it's unusual because usually the Senate, when I was in the Senate, used to sit the last week or the first week of January, which was effectively the last sitting week. But we finished in Canberra last Friday morning, and so I had this week. Most of the school awards don't start till next week, so here I am. And what a spectacular day to be on King Island.
Yeah, well, it's always like that.
I know
King
it's always
Island,
like this, but there's
always.
There's hardly any breeze at all today.
No, it is a little bit warmer for that reason.
It's really warm.
No, I thought you might have decided to come today because, unfortunately, no races this season, and you normally come to the races.
I always come to the races, and that's in January. There's a group of us that come over and have a wonderful weekend, but we're swapping that out for Folkie. So I've never been to Folkie, so I'm really looking forward to that in February.
We don't say Folkie, but
what do you say?
We say, I said it once on the ABC and they were ready to beat me because we actually say it with double K for some reason.
Folkie. Folkie. Okay, I'll remember that.
Yeah, so you become one of us, you say Folkie.
Folkie,
yeah,
okay, all
but
right.
anyway,
Well, I'll better remember that. I'm coming to Folkie in February. And I've got everything in place, Wade. I've got a bed, I've got flights, and I've got my tickets, so I'm all ready to go.
Well, that's good because I tell you what, tickets and flights.
I know.
Anyway, we'll come to that. First of all, for yourself, December now, how do you look back at the political year for yourself? How has it been? Successful, not successful?
Well, it's been a whirlwind. So obviously, as many of your viewers and listeners will know, I stepped down from the Senate in March, having been the Senator for Tasmania for about 14 years, and then run for the seat of Braddon during the 2025 election and was successful in that, which I was... very thankful to the voters of Braddon for putting their support behind me.
Yeah. Is it very different now in hindsight, being a senator or being a member of parliament?
It is different. There's some similarities, but there's also quite a lot of difference. So when we're in Canberra, the standing orders and the way that the chamber runs is quite different. The way that I work is different because I'm not the whip. So I was the whip in the Senate, but I'm a backbencher now that has time to...
You now have to behave.
Well, no, I always did behave before, but I have more time to meet with people that come to Canberra. I have more time to attend events that are on in Parliament House, but also more opportunity to speak in the chambers. So it's different. In the electorate, it's quite different. I think people tend to want more of a piece of you as a Member of Parliament as opposed to a Senator. But I'm enjoying that. I love getting out, love talking to people and resolving problems if we can for people.
But is it also that when you're in Parliament, you're a lot more visible to the public than, say, in the Senate? Because you don't see as much of the Senate.
I think that's right. And part of that is because Senators have a lot more committee workload than what MPs have. Yeah. MPs still have committee workload, but not to the extent of senators. But I was out in the community a lot as a senator because that's the way I work. I preferred to be out with people rather than sitting in an office or behind a desk in an inquiry. So I got out, but now I'm finding that I've got more time to be able to do that, and I love it.
More time now? You would think almost in Parliament there's more commitments than
No, there's more. So we sit about the same amount of time. Yeah. So we sit for about 18 weeks. And so more time in terms of not having to do the whip's job and not having to do the Senate committees enables me to take that time from there and move it over and put it out where I can get out amongst the community, which is great.
Yeah. What has King Island achieved as far as you're concerned in this 12-month period? Well, we got a new hub.
You got a new hub, which is fantastic, and I think the utilisation of the hub has been incredible. I had a meeting with council earlier, and they've told me how each month the use of the hub and the number of people that go through there is going up. So it's fantastic. It's a great facility for the island, modern. the use of it is great. They're still waiting for a wedding there, so if you know anyone
one little thing there. If you go and get married there, how are you going to go with dinner? Because they can warm up, but it's not really...
Well, you just go somewhere else for dinner, Wade. Come on, there's lots of ways. You could have a barbie out the back with a snag,
Well, you could, of
There's
course.
lots of things you could do. But anyway, the hub is just a fantastic addition, I think, to the island. Obviously, the street beautification, I mean, that looks really good, what's been able to be achieved within the budget that was given for that.
You can open your door now when you get out of the car.
You can open your door when you get out of the car. You can drive up without sort of driving right up onto the footpath because the barriers are there. The area around under the trees that's been sort of compacted down and sealed, and the colours, the colours of the big pots that are in there with plants and that in. It just looks lovely. So I think it's, there's more work to be done, clearly, but I think
another
that's
thing
great.
What is interesting is that because you always had an interest in health also in the hospital and all the things that happened there, interestingly enough, and this is not federal government, I know, but state government has promised now for months that they will start building the ambulance hub.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it hasn't even gone to tender as we speak.
No.
Don't you think that's frustrating and government shouldn't operate like that?
Yeah, look, it is a bit frustrating and I suppose that's a state issue. I mean, we had an election that sort of held up a lot of opportunities to keep going.
But the budget was already set aside for it. So
well, that's right. But yes, it's a process of, I'm not sure how the state goes through those things, but it would be lovely to see something happening in that field for the people of the island and those people who, your volunteer ambulance paramedics, because it's really important that they have a really good place to operate out of. But,
and the 2 community paramedics that they were promising.
That's right, yeah. So I think, there's some room, obviously, for the state to pick up and go from there. But in terms of, some of those things, like government funding does take time and, we made a commitment to Phoenix House during the election that was held in May for some funding for a facility, a toilet facility within the grounds, which makes it much better for people that are in the grounds and a little playground in that area. That stuff still takes time. We have a grant process to go through. We have it's about transparency and ensuring.
But there's a process going.
There is a process.
It is ongoing.
It's
not
ongoing.
Like it's on
No,
hold.
that's correct. It's not on hold. It's actually ongoing, yes.
Because don't you think that in reality that to be a good politician, stick to your promises, and if you can't stick to them, then admit and explain.
Yeah.
Don't come up with because I think we live in a world today that maybe in the 50s or 60s people would say, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Today's world, people have so much information coming to them.
Absolutely.
I don't think they would accept it, do they?
No. Look, I think the issue from my point of view is I'm always upfront with people and I'm someone who never gives up. I fight for lots of different things all the time. And if I go over there and I don't get, a satisfactory response, I'll go over there and I'll keep searching until we get it. But I think to be really upfront with people and say, okay, look, there's a delay, we're not going to get that done for a period of time. I think a lot of people will accept that sort of honesty and openness and transparency rather than just, crickets, because people just want to know what's happening. And I'm someone who I ask a lot of questions about things and I often say to people, tell me the time frame. Tell me when that's going to happen. What are the milestones along the way? And I think people really, even if it is a long-term sort of, structure or whatever, then I think people really do understand. But if there's milestones that are to be met by certain times, people can accept that then, okay, we know that's going to happen there, but we're going to see this, this and this. So I think that's a reasonable sort of ask.
Now, another thing, talking about asking, is that, and you've been talking to council also, to Marcus Blakey, our mayor, is that, and we see it with every organisation on this island, struggling to get people to the island. We want to grow the island, and, we have airlines. One is now in new hands. We have no idea yet how that's going to further develop. We have another airline that gets a little bit of funding from state government, fulfill their flights as required, but we need more. Do you think that it is about time that King Island makes the federal government aware that, hey, you've given a great support to Flinders Island to extend and reinforce that airport and runways? Should we see a similar thing happening on this island to grow for the future?
Yeah, look, I think that's a really good question. And I think the issue is, if we can start with the planes first, I mean, one of the things that we did as a federal government was make sure that Rex was able to continue to fly when they went into receivership. And I think we've seen, you know, down the track now quite some months and a long process whereby, you know, us guaranteeing that we put that money in to make sure that they kept going. We've now seen a new buyer and, you know, and I guess some sort of security for places like King Island.
Are you saying that Air T now, who's taken over Rex Airlines, are also receiving similar
No.
federal
Well,
funding?
I'm not sure about what funding they're receiving, but I think what we did in that stopgap was to make sure that the airline was able to continue, because not only do they service King Island, but they also service all around regional Australia
and regions where there's no other airlines.
Absolutely,
so
there is a lot of regions that Rex was the only place the only airline that actually flew in. So it was really important for us to step up and make sure that went on. I don't know what the details of the sale and the time frame or anything like that is, but the fact that it's there and we've kept it going, I think, is fantastic. I mean, the upgrading of airports is a very expensive program, but I mean, I've met with the council earlier today, and the new general managers provided a very well done document, a business case for that sort of thing, which we will put in front of the Minister for Infrastructure and make sure that she's aware that that's it. And I will keep having that discussion with her around, you know, the value of having something like that here that will take bigger planes, heavier planes, you know, more frequent flights and those sort of things. Those are the sort of things that places like King Island need. You've got, you know, the dairy that's now up and running. You've got the mine that seems to be going really well now. You've got an important mineral there. You've got the sand mine. You've got a lot of industry. Plus you need to get people on and off the island for various reasons. You know, the tourism, the golfing and a whole range of other tourism ventures. I think there's some really great opportunities, but you need that sort of infrastructure to be able to make sure that those things continue and that they build. And, you know, hopefully those sorts of things grow the population as well, which then takes pressure off council.
It's sort of where do you start first, isn't it?
It is a bit of chicken and egg, but I think, you know, you have to sort of look at, well, what do we need to make these things happen, and then what do we put in place to make that happen? So, so we've got the business case now from the council, and we'll, as I said, I would have discussions with the minister, and we'll try and progress that as much as we can.
Cost of living, as you say, and how we live here on this island. Of course, we have a lot of issues with the freight equalisation scheme. It was great to see that the federal government has put 92 million in support. I have to say, in reality, it's more the bigger organisations that will profit from that. We did have a few representatives of the government on behalf of the government who answered and asked some questions here recently.
The review.
Where do we go with
reviewers.
it? The review, do you think that it is that we should look at a different format almost? And I say this simply because we have businesses on this island that bring a container full of goodies to the island. Part of it is classified under the banner of the freight equalisation, other bits are not. They have told me that often it's not worthwhile to even go through it all and go through the whole process. So is there almost something like, should we simplify it? Should we say, for example, if you look at the cost of stevedoring, of landing fees and port fees and whatever, should there be almost like a compensation so that everybody could profit and living on this island?
Well, look, on the freight equalisation, obviously a lot of the things you talk about there about the discrepancies between some products and others, that certainly came through during the Senate inquiry that we had, and we came to King Island and heard from, you know, many businesses on the island when we were here for the day doing the hearing. The reviewers have obviously been here the last week or so, or a couple of weeks ago they came over. I've got to say they're independent reviewers, which has been appointed by the government, but I was really impressed when I read the CVs of both of those reviewers, because I think, you know, one of the, David Parmenter is, you know, well known for his expertise around maritime and
he knew what he was
shipping,
talking about,
and he absolutely knew what he was talking about. And Dr. Jenny Gordon, is a very highly respected economist and has that sort of understanding of micro sort of areas and all that. So I was really impressed with the two of them. I haven't met them personally, but when I read what they were doing, the fact that they came to King Island, they came to Tasmania, they came to King Island, they came to Hobart, they came to Devonport, they went to Flinders Island. I was really pleased because I was worried initially that the review might actually be a desktop type review and they might just look. And one of the things that I pushed really strong with the Minister's office was these reviewers have to get their feet on the ground in the areas where there are these concerns. And so consequently they came to King Island and heard from people. And I've heard this morning that they were very generous with their time. They were generous with, the opportunities for people to put forward that. So they will take away that body of information that they got and provide a report, which I understand will come out sometime in the new year. And then that'll go to government, I assume, and then we'll work from there. But I'll be really interested to see what they've said in that review, because I think that is a critical thing that and not only King Island, but particularly King Island, but Tasmania as a whole on the mainland actually needs to have a good functioning TFES system.
Well, after so many years that it has been in place, it's probably good to have an overhaul. That now 2026 around the corner, what are you hoping to achieve next year, and even maybe achieve something for King Island or for Breton? I don't know.
Well, look, I think, if I look back over this year, you asked a little bit about this year. I mean, the government, I think the Labor government has done an enormous amount of work around cost of living and pressures on individuals. We've put through things like, cheaper medicines, which, is now locked in, prescriptions that were probably going to be $52 or something from the start of January are now locked in for, to be around $32 or whatever. I think we've done the 20% off HECS debt. So, those who have got a HECS debt through university have now, just over the last couple of weeks, have received a ping on their phone that says, here's a reduction. And I actually went out to the university campus in Burnie a couple of days ago and spoke to one of the students out there who said he had got his ping on the phone that said your HECS debt's been reduced by $7,000. I mean, that is a really big help to students who, have studied for a long time, wanted to make a contribution by, doing their study and then going out into the community and working or whatever, and to have that taken off them is a really big improvement for them. Fee-free TAFE has been a really great thing, and I mean, I don't know how many people on King Island, we can't get quite a breakdown of where the sort of demographics of that is, but we know there's been a lot of thousands of people that have gone through TAFE, fee-free TAFE, and that's now locked in forever. That a lot of those people would not have been able to afford to go to TAFE at all. Some of the costs of going to TAFE are quite, into the thousands. So for people to go and, improve their education, to get diplomas and things that they need in specific industries that we really need to have, wage increases for early childhood workers, those sorts of things are all, major things that we've been able to, assist people with generally in the community to assist with the cost of living. So that's sort of what we've done so far.
Which is great, of course, but at the same time, we live in a time where a lot of people, many people, find it impossible to even buy a place. The great Australian dream is over and done with.
Well, no, I disagree with you there, Wade. Let me tell you a story why, okay? So yesterday I was out at a childcare centre in Ulverston and met a lovely young woman who said to me, I said to her, the second tranche of the 15% wage increase that we had pushed through came into play on the 1st of December, and that was the second one, so they'd already got a 15%. This was the second 15%. And I said to her, what does that actually mean to you? You're an early childhood educator. She said, I love what I do. She loved working with kids. That was her goal, to be an early childhood educator. She's working up through to her diploma. And she said to me, this wage increase, she said, the first one, she said, I've been able to save enough to actually put a deposit down on a house. And she said, so the second one is now going to help me to pay that house. Now, that was such a heartwarming story to me. Here's this young woman who's probably no more than about 24, got a wage increase a little while ago, has saved that, got enough to put a deposit on a house. And she said to me, I am the first one in my family. She said, my mum and dad have always rented. And she said, I am the first one in my family to own my own home. And so, you know, the cost of homes and the cost of repayments, and I mean, mortgage rates have come down obviously, but they're still, you know, it's still costly.
House prices are still very high.
House prices are still very high, but it just goes to show that if people, you know, get a decent wage and can manage to save, they can actually achieve those things. I'm not saying everyone can do that, but that story of that young woman really opened my eyes to say, she was just beaming because she was the first person in her family.
I can understand. And it's great to have that sort of stories. But for example, here on King Island, I know there's young people leaving the island because the wages here on this island, and then compared with the cost of living and house prices, they just can't afford.
Yeah, and that could be the same around lots of areas of Australia.
And are we ever going to find a solution for that?
Well, I think some of the things we're doing is, you know, the housing of... the HAF, the Housing Affordability Fund, those sorts of things, building more houses to try and make the price come down or at least level it out, because when there's not enough houses, of course the prices go up because everyone's bidding for houses. But I think when, you know, and people, you know, we get lots of comments from the opposition that say, you know, how many houses have you built? You know, you've had this policy. But they forget that they blocked it in the Senate for 2 and a bit years. They blocked that legislation going through, which meant we weren't able to get on with it. But we are getting on with it now, and we are building lots of houses. I mean, I went to a place in Ulverston probably a couple of months ago where the Housing Minister and I went along, and there was 48 homes in this area. And a lot of it was social affordable housing, so people had moved in. And it was brand new. They were beautiful houses. They're built to a really high quality in terms of the insulation and a whole range of things. So that keeps electricity bills down for people. So there's a lot of advantages. But, you know, we are 2.5 years behind the 8 ball simply because we couldn't get the legislation through to start funding some of this stuff. That is now starting to happen. And so, you know, this is, you know, our second term of government where, you know, we are putting into place the things that we said we'd do, and it's starting to have some benefits. But you can't just build a house like that. You can't just pull carpenters out of thin air to build houses and builders, bricklayers and those sorts of things.
I understand that.
And that's again where the free TAFE stuff comes in, where, you know, we are channeling people into those areas to make sure that we build the capacity to be able to have builders and have people that can actually build houses to get on with it.
What about house prices, bring them down by way of, first of all, stop Airbnb, and second, any investment property is no longer a tax advantage, but a tax disadvantage.
Yeah, well, we went down that road a few years ago and it didn't do us any good. But
no, but okay, it's like because everything grows, so you will have to spend more and more. And come a time where you run out.
Yeah. In terms of Airbnbs, I mean, that's a state issue because they manage that stuff, and I know they've had lots of debates around that. Yeah. And there's sort of evidence around that says, well, that's not really impacting on, you know, housing affordability or housing availability. Yeah. I haven't seen the sort of statistics around that to really comment fully on it, but I think there's a whole range of things, but our priority is to make sure that we get more houses built that are available to people. And you know, part of the problem over a few years has been land acquisition and actually councils having land available to build subdivisions. We are now seeing areas open up in lots of local government areas where councils are actually allocating areas to be opened up for land and new subdivisions. I mean, if you go out to, say, Latrobe on the northwest coast, there's subdivisions opening up all the time. Young families moving into new homes, reasonably affordable homes. So those are the sort of things that you've got to get in. You've got to get those things done, not just, in isolation, but you've got to do them in a whole package of
and
arrangements.
maybe as a nation get a little bit away from all the coastal living and maybe do, like for example in the 70s, Israel created orchards in the desert.
They did.
Cost them a lot, but they did.
I've driven past date orchards in the desert in Israel, I can tell you.
So should we almost look as a nation, build more and develop more inland where it is a lot cheaper? If you look at how many towns do we have that are derelict almost, but there is still an infrastructure.
There is, but I think in line with that, you've got to have, people don't want to travel too far to go to work, you know.
But there's more and more people working from home.
There is a lot more.
And with AI, that future is only going to further expand.
Those opportunities are there, but it's about making sure that we've got land available, that land is able to be planned for. It's also getting the infrastructure there, sewerage, water, the utilities. All that has to be done before you can sort of consider that. So there's a lot of work that goes on around that sort of stuff.
Now, I went to 2026 and you went back to 2025. Now I go back to 2026.
Well, I said I started to go on to 2026 because I said we are going to continue the work that we're doing.
Yep.
Look, I suppose for me, 2026 is a really great opportunity for me to sort of just keep getting out in communities, listening to people, helping people. We have a lot of people that come to us through our office for, assistance with various different things. Obviously, 2026 we'll start to see some areas where some of our election commitments from 2025, but even 2022 election commitments, some of them are now starting to be finalised. And buildings are up, we're cutting ribbons, that sort of stuff. And that is great because those things are really what community's about. It's about providing things. In fact, I think it's next week or the week after, I'm going to open a toilet block, would you believe it, at Mount Montgomery in Penguin. Now, everyone says...
How do you open a toilet block? By flushing it?
Yeah, probably. We might put the ribbon on the flush button. But look, at the end of the day, that is an area where there's a lot of bike riders, mountain bike riders. There's a lot of walkers that go up through the Dial Range and that. And the one thing that was missing was a facility. And, we sort of laughed about it, and said, we're going to open a toilet block. But for the people that utilise that and the community generally, it's going to be fantastic. So those are the sort of things that we will continue to do through 2026. And I'll just be out and about in the community like I have been.
Well, talking about out and about, all I can say is hope you enjoy your Christmas time. And then, in February, out and about, the best and most beautiful, unique little festival that you find in Australia. And
I'm really looking forward to it.
And it's going to be at Fockey? Oh, Fockey.
Fockey,
anyway,
Fockey.
One of the
I'm coming to Fockey.
Have a great time and thank you for your time, man.
I will. Thanks, Wade.